Tears among strangers. The announcement of another 3-hour delay for Flight 217 to Mumbai barely registered in Prisha Sharma's consciousness. She sat hunched in the uncomfortable airport chair, her thumb absently tracing the edge of her boarding pass while tears blurred the terminal around her. The crowded international terminal of Delhi Airport continued its relentless hum of activity, travelers rushing past with their carry-ons and conversations. 28 years old and accomplished in her field of architectural restoration, Prisha had always prided herself on composure. But today that composure had crumbled entirely. Her grandmother's funeral had been yesterday, the woman who had raised her after her parents' early divorce, who had encouraged her passion for preserving historical buildings, who had been her true north, and instead of finding solidarity in grief, the family had fractured further over inheritance disputes and decades-old resentments. "You're just like your mother," her uncle had spat during the gathering after the cremation. "Selfish. Only showing up when there's something to gain." The accusation had cut deeper than he could know. She had spent years trying to prove she wasn't the flighty, unreliable person her mother had been. Prisha wiped her eyes, aware she was making a scene but unable to stop. Her phone buzzed with another message from her cousin Anjali, more recriminations, more guilt. She silenced it and shoved it deep into her bag. 3 seats away, Vikram Malhotra observed the young woman's distress with growing concern. At 42, he had built Indus Innovations from a small startup into one of India's leading sustainable technology companies. Business magazines called him visionary. His employees called him demanding but fair. His ex-wife had called him married to his work before leaving 2 years ago. None of these labels prepared him for what to do about a crying stranger. He should mind his own business. He had emails to answer, a presentation to refine before his meeting in Singapore tomorrow. Yet something about her silent tears seemed to demand witness. He had seen that same contained devastation in his own reflection after his mother's passing 5 years ago. Vikram gathered his courage along with his briefcase and moved to the seat beside her, offering a packet of tissues. Without comment, Prisha looked up, startled by the gesture. The man beside her wasn't what she expected. Not young and awkwardly flirtatious, not old and paternally concerned. Instead, he was simply present, his salt and pepper temples contrasting with otherwise black hair, his crisp blue button-down suggesting professional success without flashiness. "Thank you," she managed, taking a tissue. "Delays are the worst," Vikram said, giving her an opening that required no explanation of her tears. "Yes," she agreed, grateful for the mundane conversation starter. "Mumbai flight?" He shook his head. "Singapore. Gate C36, but they've got some technical issue with the jetway, so we're all redistributed through the terminal." He hesitated, then added, "I'm Vikram, by the way." "Prisha," she replied, her voice steadying as she gained control of herself. "Sorry about—" She gestured vaguely to her tear-streaked face. "No need for apologies," he said gently. "Airports see all human emotions. They're liminal spaces, between destinations, between chapters of our lives." The unexpected depth of his observation made her really look at him. His eyes held a quiet intelligence, and something else, a recognition of pain that made her feel less alone. "Would you like some coffee?" he asked, nodding toward the nearby cafe. "I find it helps with the waiting, if not with whatever else we might be carrying." Prisha hesitated, her grandmother's voice in her head warning about strangers, especially men, but what did she have to lose? Her flight wouldn't leave for hours, and sitting alone with her thoughts was becoming unbearable. "I'd like that," she said, surprising herself, "but only if you'll let me buy my own." Vikram smiled, the expression transforming his serious face. "Independent. I respect that, shall we?" As they walked toward the cafe, Prisha felt something shift. Not healing exactly, but perhaps the first acknowledgement that healing might eventually be possible. Sometimes kindness came from unexpected sources, even in the sterile, transient space of an airport terminal. Conversations at Gate B12, the airport cafe, buzzed with activity as travelers sought refuge in caffeine and overpriced sandwiches. Prisha wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic mug, grateful for something solid to hold on to. Across the small table, Vikram stirred his black coffee methodically, 3 precise rotations of the spoon before setting it aside. "So," he said after they'd settled, "Mumbai?" "Yes," Prisha nodded. "I'm returning to a restoration project there. An old colonial-era library that's being repurposed as a community center while preserving its architectural heritage." She surprised herself with the enthusiasm that crept into her voice despite everything. "I'm an architectural conservationist." Vikram's eyebrows raised with genuine interest. "That sounds fascinating. Balancing history with functionality must be challenging." "It is," she admitted. "People either want to demolish everything old for glass towers or preserve buildings exactly as they were, even when they're no longer practical." A small smile tugged at her lips. "I'm the annoying middle ground, always arguing with both sides." Conversation flowed more easily than either expected. Vikram described Indus Innovations and their work, developing affordable water filtration systems for rural communities. He spoke with passion about sustainability that matched Prisha's own fervor for preservation. "Your family must be proud," Prisha remarked, then immediately regretted the comment as shadows crossed Vikram's face. "My parents wanted me to become a doctor," he confessed with a slight shrug. "Very traditional expectations. My father still introduces me as my son, who could have been at Apollo Hospital." He offered a self-deprecating smile. 15 years of success and I'm still the family disappointment." Prisha laughed unexpectedly. "We might be related," she said. "My family, well, they have opinions about my choices too." An announcement crackled over the PA system. Vikram's flight to Singapore would be delayed another hour. "Seems we've both been granted more time in airport purgatory," he said, glancing at his watch. "Should we find more comfortable seats?" They relocated to Gate B12, a relatively quiet area where a flight had just departed, leaving a row of empty seats. The large windows offered a view of planes taxiing across the tarmac, against the backdrop of a setting sun painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Prisha mused, watching an Airbus A380 slowly making its way toward the runway. All these people going places, lives intersecting briefly, then continuing on their separate paths. "Is that why you were crying earlier?" Vikram asked gently. "Paths diverging?" Prisha tensed, then sighed, deciding honesty was easier with someone she'd never see again. "My grandmother's funeral was yesterday. She raised me after my parents' divorce. My father wasn't present and my mother was inconsistent at best." "I'm sorry for your loss," Vikram said, the simple words carrying genuine weight. "Thank you. It wasn't just losing her, though, it was everything after." Prisha described the family conflicts that had erupted, careful to keep details vague. "They see me as an outsider like my mother, the one who left Delhi to pursue her own interests." Vikram nodded slowly. "Families have long memories and complicated dynamics. When my marriage ended, my parents were more concerned with how it reflected on our family name than how I was coping." "Were you?" Prisha asked. "Coping, I mean." He gave a half smile. "Eventually. Time doesn't heal all wounds, contrary to the saying, but it does teach us how to carry them differently." A comfortable silence settled between them, the kind usually reserved for old friends. Prisha found herself studying his profile as he watched a plane take off. The straight nose, thoughtful eyes, the slight tension in his jaw that suggested he carried responsibilities heavily. "What about you?" she asked suddenly. "Are you traveling for business or—" "Always business," he answered with a hint of regret. "Meeting with potential investors. Singapore this week, then Jakarta, then back to Delhi for about 48 hours before heading to Dubai." "That sounds exhausting." "It is," he admitted, "but necessary. We're expanding our reach, trying to implement water solutions in areas facing severe drought." His expression softened. "What about your work? Tell me more about this library you're saving." For the next hour, they exchanged stories about their projects. Prisha described the ornate ceiling moldings and the challenge of reinforcing century-old foundations. Vikram spoke of collaborating with local communities to ensure technology adoption. Their professional passions revealed deeper values they shared: respect for history, concern for sustainability, belief in practical solutions over ideological purity. When Prisha's stomach growled audibly, they both laughed. Airport food round. 2? Vikram suggested, checking his watch. We still have time. As they walked toward the food court, Prisha realized her grief hadn't disappeared, but it had somehow shifted, making space for other feelings. The heaviness in her chest had lightened, allowing her to breathe more freely. You know, she said, as they joined the line at a dosa counter, when you first approached me, I thought you were either going to try to sell me something or hit on me. Vikram laughed, the sound genuine and warm. Sorry to disappoint on both counts, though I do have some excellent water filtration systems if you're interested. His playful response made her smile, and Prisha wondered at how quickly one could form a connection with a stranger. How the right person at the right moment could momentarily make an impersonal airport terminal feel almost like home. Trust at Terminal 3. The overhead lights of Terminal 3 flickered briefly, causing both Prisha and Vikram to glance upward. Outside, the previously clear evening sky had transformed into a canvas of dark, threatening clouds. Rain began to pelt against the massive windows, distorting the view of aircraft on the tarmac. Monsoon season's last hurrah, Vikram commented, watching ground crew scurrying for cover. This doesn't bode well for either of our departure times. They had settled in a quieter corner of the airport after their meal, two comfortable chairs facing each other near an underutilized charging station. Prisha checked her phone. Still 3 hours until her rescheduled flight, assuming the weather didn't cause further delays. I should be more upset about this, she said, surprising herself. But honestly, the thought of returning to Mumbai, to an empty apartment and work colleagues offering condolences. I'm not in a rush. Vikram nodded, understanding. Grief follows. You anyway. Change of scenery doesn't help much. You sound like you're speaking from experience, Prisha observed. He was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently adjusting his watch strap. After my divorce, I traveled constantly. Told myself it was for business expansion, but really I was running from an empty house filled with memories. His smile was self-deprecating. Took me about 30,000 air miles to realize I was bringing the emptiness with me. What changed? She asked. I stopped running, he said simply. Started rebuilding my life intentionally rather than reactively. He leaned forward slightly. But we were talking about your grandmother. Tell me about her, if you want to. That is, Prisha found herself describing Dadi, her collection of vintage Bollywood records, her famous cardamom chai, her insistence on handwritten letters even in the age of WhatsApp. How she had taught Prisha to appreciate the stories embedded in old buildings, sparking her future career. How she had never once made Prisha feel abandoned, despite her parents' choices. She sounds remarkable, Vikram said warmly. She was. Prisha's voice caught. The day before she passed, I was in Mumbai dealing with contractor issues. I meant to video call her but got caught up in work emergencies. She twisted the thin silver ring on her middle finger, her grandmother's gift on her 25th birthday. Now I'll never get that chance. What would you have told her? Vikram asked gently. The question hung between them, weighted with an invitation to honesty that Prisha hadn't expected. She hadn't even admitted this to herself yet. That I was thinking about leaving India, she confessed quietly. There's a conservation program in Edinburgh that's been recruiting me. Better funding, more progressive restoration philosophy. She looked down. I never told her because I knew it would break her heart. Delhi was home to her, even with all its complications. And is it home to you? The question struck at the core of her current untethered feeling. I don't know anymore. Mumbai is where I work. Delhi holds my past, but neither feels quite right. Before Vikram could respond, the terminal was plunged into darkness. Emergency lights activated seconds later, casting everything in a dim, blue-tinged glow. Anxious, murmurs rose from travelers around them. Power outage, Vikram said calmly, already reaching for his phone's flashlight. Happens during heavy storms. The airport's PA system crackled to life with a slightly strained voice. Attention all passengers. We are experiencing a temporary power disruption due to severe weather conditions. Emergency systems are functioning normally. Please remain in your current locations while we resolve this issue. We anticipate regular operations to resume shortly. Prisha noticed a young boy, perhaps 7 or 8 years old, standing frozen with fear several meters away, looking around frantically. I think that child is alone, she said, already rising from her seat. They approached him together. Vikram crouched to the boy's eye level while Prisha scanned the area for airport staff. Hello there, Vikram said gently in Hindi. I'm Vikram, and this is Prisha. Are you by yourself? The boy nodded, tears welling. My mother went to buy water before the lights went out. I can't see her now. What's your name? Prisha asked, joining Vikram at the child's level. Arjun, he whispered. Well, Arjun, Vikram said with reassuring confidence. Your mother is probably trying to get back to you right now. Let's help her find you. For the next 15 minutes, they stayed with Arjun, distracting him with stories and simple games, while Prisha periodically announced their location to passing travelers. When the lights finally flickered back on, a frantic woman rushed toward them, enveloping the boy in a tight embrace. Thank you, she repeated, gratitude flooding her features as Arjun explained how they had helped him. As the reunited pair walked away, Prisha found herself smiling genuinely for the first time since before her grandmother's death. That was kind of you, she said to Vikram as they returned to their seats. You're the one who noticed him, Vikram pointed out. Most people were too busy checking flight statuses on their phones. A new announcement confirmed what they had suspected. All flights were now delayed indefinitely due to the worsening storm. Looks like we're here for the night. Vikram sighed, showing Prisha the airline app notification on his phone. He hesitated before adding, I have access to the business lounge. It's not much, but there are more comfortable chairs, decent food, and probably fewer crying children. You're welcome to join me. Prisha considered his offer. She had known this man for only a few hours, yet she felt a puzzling sense of trust. Perhaps it was the way he had spoken to Arjun, with genuine kindness rather than condescension, or how he listened when she spoke, truly listened instead of simply waiting for his turn to talk. Are you sure? I don't have business class tickets. I'm sure, he said. Consider it selfish on my part. I'd rather spend this unexpected layover in good company than alone with my thoughts. As they gathered their belongings, Prisha realized something had shifted between them. What had begun as a simple act of comfort offered to a crying stranger had evolved into something neither had anticipated, a connection that transcended the transient nature of airport encounters. In the soft lighting of the business lounge, surrounded by other stranded travelers typing urgently on laptops or sleeping in plush chairs, Prisha and Vikram continued their conversation, diving deeper into subjects they might never have shared with anyone else, let alone someone they had just met in an airport terminal on one of the most difficult days of Prisha's life. Departure. And distance the morning sunlight streamed through the vast windows of Terminal 3, revealing a landscape washed clean by the previous night's storm. Puddles on the tarmac reflected the clear blue sky as ground crews resumed their activities with renewed energy. Prisha stretched in her lounge chair, working out the kinks that came from sleeping in an airport, however comfortable the business lounge seating might be. Across from her, Vikram was already awake, typing quietly on his laptop. He looked remarkably put together for someone who had spent the night in an airport. His collared shirt still relatively unwrinkled, his posture straight. Good morning, he said, noticing her movement. They've announced new departure times. Your flight to Mumbai leaves in 2 hours. Mine to Singapore in 90 minutes. He offered a small, rueful smile. Our unexpected layover is coming to an end. Prisha felt an odd pang at his words. Their night in the lounge had continued their earlier pattern. Conversations that wandered from professional challenges to personal philosophies, punctuated by comfortable silences. They had shared a midnight meal of sandwiches and fruit from the lounge buffet, exchanging stories of their most disastrous travel experiences until Prisha had finally dozed off around 3 a.m. Thank you, she said simply. For everything. Vikram closed his laptop. I should be thanking you. Yesterday was supposed to be a frustrating delay in my schedule. Instead, he paused, seeming to search for the right words. Instead, it became something meaningful. An announcement called for boarding of the Singapore flight. Reality intruded on their temporary haven. That's me, he said, gathering his belongings. He hesitated, then pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. My personal number. Not for business proposals. His smile was warm but tentative. No pressure or expectations, just, if you ever want to continue our conversation. Prisha accepted the card, a strange mixture of emotions swirling within her. Safe travels, Vikram. You too, Prisha. And whatever you decide about Edinburgh, I hope you find where you belong. She watched him walk away, his tall figure soon lost among the crowds of travelers. Only then did she turn the business card over to find not just his number but a brief note. Thank you for reminding me how to truly connect. But 2 weeks later, Prisha stood on the scaffolding of the Mumbai Library Restoration Project, examining the intricate plasterwork of the ceiling. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from Vikram. Their communication had started tentatively, 3 days after their airport encounter. A simple text from Prisha. The contractors finally agreed to preserve the original mosaic floor. Small victories. His reply had come hours later. The best kind. Currently in a Jakarta hotel arguing with investors about profit margins versus community impact. Wish I had your negotiation skills. From there, a pattern emerged. Short messages exchanged across time zones. Photos of architectural details that reminded her of their conversation. Images of water filtration systems being installed in remote villages. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people continuing a connection that had begun in unlikely circumstances. Prisha climbed down from the scaffolding and found a quiet corner to read his latest message. Back in Delhi for 48 hours. Having chai at that place near Connaught Place we talked about. Wish you were here to see if it lives up to your grandmother's recipe. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Something had been building between them. Something neither had acknowledged directly. The distance had allowed their connection to deepen without the complications of physical presence. A strange reverse of normal relationship progression. Before she could reply, her phone rang with a call from the Edinburgh program director. The position was officially hers if she wanted it. They needed an answer within the week. That evening in her Mumbai apartment, Prisha stared out at the city lights, feeling the weight of decision. Edinburgh offered professional growth, a fresh start distance from family complications. But leaving now meant abandoning the library project mid-restoration. Leaving India meant possibly closing a door that had just begun to open with Vikram. She finally texted him. Big decision looming. Edinburgh offered the position. Need to decide by Friday. His response came while she was brushing her teeth. What does your heart tell you? That I'm scared, she typed back honestly. Of staying for the wrong reasons. Of leaving for the wrong reasons. Fear is a poor compass, came his reply. What would your grandmother advise? The question brought unexpected tears. Dottie would have told her to follow her passion but never run from difficulties. She would have reminded Prisha that roots can be both anchors and lifelines. The next morning, Prisha received an email from her uncle, an awkward, stilted apology for his words at the funeral. Her cousin Anjali called that afternoon, the first civil conversation they'd had in weeks. Small olive branches, imperfectly extended. Meanwhile, Vikram's messages continued, never pressuring, always thoughtful. He sent a voice note describing a sunset over Delhi's skyline. She responded with a time-lapse video of workers carefully restoring a section of the library's facade. 3 days before her deadline, Prisha received a package at her office, a small, carefully wrapped box. Inside was a vintage architectural compass clearly antique with a note, for finding your true north wherever that may be. No pressure, no expectations. Just support for your journey. Vikram. The gesture brought clarity. That evening she drafted 2 emails, one declining the Edinburgh position with genuine regret and appreciation, the other to her Mumbai project, manager requesting a week's leave. To Vikram she sent only, "We'll be in Delhi next Tuesday. Is that chai place really as good as you claimed?" His response was immediate. Not even close, but the company would make up for it. The week that followed was filled with anticipation and doubt. Had she made the right choice? Was she interpreting their connection correctly? What if the person she met at the airport was different from the man she would meet in Delhi? Sitting on the plane to Delhi, Prisha thought about the strange trajectory that had brought her here. Grief had opened a door to connection. An airport delay had created space for understanding. Distance had allowed trust to grow. As the plane began its descent into Delhi's Indira Gandhi International Airport, the very place where their paths had crossed, Prisha realized that regardless of what happened next, she was no longer the same person who had sat crying in Terminal 3 just 1 month ago. Whatever awaited her in Delhi, she was moving forward rather than running away. Return flight. The familiar chaos of Delhi's streets greeted Prisha as her taxi navigated through the afternoon traffic. Billboards advertised the latest smartphones. Alongside centuries-old monuments, the juxtaposition so quintessentially Delhi that it made her smile despite her nerves. She had texted Vikram upon landing. "Just arrived, heading to hotel first, meet at 6?" His reply had been characteristically straightforward, "I'll be there, looking forward to it." Now freshly showered and changed into a simple blue kurta, Prisha stood before the mirror in her hotel room, wondering at the woman reflected back at her. She looked different somehow, not dramatically, but subtly transformed. The grief that had shadowed her face at their first meeting had softened into something more complex. Her eyes held a clarity that had been missing before. "This is ridiculous," she told her reflection. "It's just coffee with someone you've already spent hours talking to." Yet her racing heart suggested otherwise. The chai place near Connaught Place was tucked between a modern bookstore and a traditional textile shop. Its weathered facade and small wooden sign promised authenticity rather than tourist appeal. Prisha arrived 5 minutes early and chose a table near the window, watching the flow of people outside while trying to calm her nerves. She spotted him before he saw her, tall and composed among the crowd, wearing a simple gray button-down rather than the formal business attire from the airport. Without the background of harried travelers and airport announcements, he seemed both more approachable and more real. The sight of him made her breath catch. Vikram's face brightened when he entered and saw her. "Prisha," he said, the single word carrying a wealth of meaning as he sat across from her. For a moment neither spoke, both suddenly shy in the face of their deliberate reunion. The easy flow of conversation that had characterized their airport encounter seemed momentarily elusive. "How was your flight?" he asked finally. "Uneventful," she replied. "The best kind." Their eyes met, and suddenly they both laughed, the tension dissolving. "I rehearsed at least 5 sophisticated conversation starters," Vikram admitted, "and that's the best I could manage." "I did the same," Prisha confessed. "It's strange, isn't it? We shared so much that night. Things I rarely tell anyone, and now we're navigating the transition from stranger I met during an emotional airport night to person I've chosen to see again," he finished. "Different context, different rules." The waiter brought their chai without being asked, placing small earthenware cups before them along with a plate of biscuits. The rich aroma of cardamom and ginger filled the space between them. "So," Vikram said after taking a sip. "Edinburgh?" "I declined," Prisha said, watching his expression carefully. "Not because of this," she gestured between them. "Or not, only because of this. I realized I wasn't finished with my work here yet. The library project needs completion, and—" she hesitated. "My family situation needs resolution, not abandonment." Vikram nodded. "How is that going?" Your family? Prisha described her recent conversations with her uncle and cousin, tentative steps toward reconciliation. My grandmother would have wanted us to find our way back to each other. It won't be easy or quick, but it feels right to try. And the library restoration? Her face lit up as she detailed the discoveries they'd made beneath layers of more recent renovations, original woodwork, hidden murals, architectural elements that told stories of the building's past. Vikram listened intently, asking questions that revealed he'd been researching her field since their meeting. As the evening progressed, they left the chai shop and walked through Connaught Place, its colonial-era white facades now illuminated against the darkening sky. Their conversation flowed naturally again, picking up threads from their messages and introducing new ones. I have something to show you, Vikram said eventually, leading her toward a nearby building. My company is helping fund the restoration of this structure as a clean water education center. Prisha examined the early 20th century building with professional interest. The proportions are beautiful. Who's handling the conservation work? That's partly why I wanted you to see it, he admitted. The current team is struggling with balancing modernization needs with historical preservation. I immediately thought of you when I saw their plans. She turned to him, understanding dawning. Are you offering me a job, Mr. Malhotra? A consultation opportunity, he clarified. No pressure, completely professional boundaries, but yes, selfishly I thought it might create more reasons for our paths to cross. Instead of answering immediately, Prisha asked, Why did you really approach me that day at the airport? Truthfully. Vikram considered her question, taking it as seriously as he seemed to take everything. You reminded me of myself after my mother died. That particular quality of grief that feels so private yet so overwhelming that it spills out despite our best efforts. He met her gaze directly. But I stayed because of who I discovered you to be. Thoughtful, passionate about your work, unafraid of difficult truths. And what is this? She gestured between them again. What are we doing here, really? I don't know, he answered honestly. Something unplanned. Something that began in a place designed for transitions and has somehow continued beyond it. He took a breath. I know it's complicated. Our lives are in different cities. We work in different fields. There's an age gap. 14 years, she interjected with a small smile. I did the math. Yes, 14 years, he acknowledged. I've analyzed every practical reason this connection makes little logical sense. And yet, she echoed. They stood there in the gentle evening air, the sounds of Delhi traffic creating a familiar backdrop to this unfamiliar moment. I don't need answers tonight, Vikram said softly. Just the truth of where you stand. Prisha thought about the compass. He had sent her a beautiful antique instrument designed to help find direction. She had brought it with her to Delhi, a talisman of sorts in her handbag. I stand exactly where I choose to be, she said finally. Here now, seeing where this leads. I've spent too much of my life either looking backward or planning forward. For once, I want to be present in the unfolding moment. His smile was worth every kilometer of her journey back to Delhi. 6 months later, Prisha stood once again in Terminal 3 of Indira Gandhi International Airport. The space looked different now, not because it had changed, but because she had. The memories of that first tearful evening had been overlaid with newer ones. Meeting Vikram here when he returned from business trips, seeing him off on others. Their teasing tradition of always having chai at the same overpriced airport cafe. Today, she wasn't crying. Today, she held a boarding pass for a flight they would take together, the first of many such journeys planned for the Water Education Center project that had now expanded to 3 locations across northern India. Her role as conservation consultant had evolved into a partnership position, allowing her to continue her Mumbai library work while establishing best practices for historical renovations with sustainable technology integration. Vikram appeared from the business lounge, 2 cups of chai in hand. Ready? He asked, handing her one. Prisha nodded, accepting both the chai and the question's deeper meaning. The path ahead wasn't perfectly clear. They still maintained separate residences, her apartment in Mumbai, his home in Delhi. Their relationship continued to evolve at its own measured pace, neither rushing nor stagnating. Professional boundaries remained important to both of them, especially as their work lives increasingly intersected. But something fundamental had shifted in that first chance meeting, a recognition of possibility in the midst of grief, a connection, forged in the liminal space between departure and arrival. You know, Prisha said as they walked toward their gate. Most people hate airport delays. Vikram's hand found hers, fingers intertwining with practiced ease. I've come to appreciate them, he replied, the warmth in his voice matching the warmth of his touch. Around them, Terminal 3 continued its eternal cycle of tearful goodbyes and joyful reunions, of frustrated delays and eager departures. Somewhere in this very terminal, perhaps another story was beginning, another chance encounter between souls in transit, another connection waiting to be made. Prisha and Vikram boarded their flight together, carrying with them the knowledge that sometimes the most significant journeys begin not with a departure or an arrival, but with an unexpected delay, and the courage to reach out to a stranger in tears.